It's nice to be with you. It really is. This is a fun time for so many of us. But we've all got a responsibility in the next couple of days. If you have not voted, do it. Go to the polls, pull a lever, check the box. So important, more important in this election perhaps than any of our lifetime. Don't miss it. Go vote. This year, Skip Barber's accomplishments are being broadly honored. It's taken a long time for the racing world to figure out that this guy had an incredible auto racing life and has achieved enormous success. As Skip is being honored today by the Hall of Fame, more honors have already come, and there's more in his future, including one that's very, very big. In 2013, Skip was inducted into the SCCA Hall of Fame. A good start. 2024 was named the Year of Skip Barber at Lime Rock. How appropriate. Without Skip Barber, there would not be a Lime Rock. The Lime Rock Control Tower was recently named for Skip Barber. He's among the road racers to be honored 2 weeks from today at the New England Racing Museum's annual Legends Day event. Oh, by the way, if you want a ticket for that, I can help you out. Today, he's being inducted into the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame. And there's still more. America's most prestigious auto racing honor is induction into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. That Hall of Fame covers every imaginable type of racing, including open wheels, stock cars, drag racing, sports cars, airplanes, motorcycles, powerboats. The event inducting Skip Barber in this year's class will be in March. Tickets are priced for $500 each, and the event will sell out. It always does. It's a big deal. A bronze bust of Skip will be permanently on display at the Daytona Museum. A large display of artifacts from Skip's careers will be on display there for a full year. It's nice that NEAR is joining with so many others to honor Skip Barber. What took so many so long to realize what this guy has done? Most people would consider their life complete. That didn't sound good, did it? Most people would consider their life complete after achieving success in a major activity. One. Harvard-educated Skip Barber has excelled in 3 careers during his 87 years on this earth. Now I'll start with his career as a race car driver. His entire career winds through the place where it began, Lime Rock Park. During his driving career, Skip won 3 SCCA national championships, the SCCA runoffs in 1969, 1970, 1971, set 32-lap records and won more races than even he can count. He was hired by the March factory to run Formula One and Formula 5000. The results are there. Skip Barber was a world-class race car driver. But there's more. Let's move on to his racing school. Believing that the art of driving race cars well could be taught, he founded the Skip Barber Racing School in 1975. How's this for success? 45 years in business, over 400,000 students have been through his classes. His students have won the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, the 24 Hours of Daytona, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and they probably won as well at Bear Ridge Speedway. Career number 3, racetrack owner, racetrack promoter. In 1983, Skip and a group of investors bought Lime Rock Park. He eventually became Lime Rock's sole owner. In 2021, after running the track for nearly 40 years and developing it into New England's most scenic and most successful road course, he sold it to a group of investors. Fortunately for those investors, he remains a shareholder so they can go forward with his advice. Skip is still involved, and he's all over that place during the Lime Rock Historics over Labor Day weekend. If you have never been to the Historics at Lime Rock, you are missing one of the most incredible experiences in motorsports that New England has to offer. The event draws huge crowds to watch a big field of vintage cars race on the track and enjoy a concourse of fine cars and a parade of shiny old racing cars. Skip remains involved in keeping his beloved Lime Rock Park New England's most beautiful and most successful road course. Skip Barber was a championship-winning driver. He continues on as a smart businessman and the man who grew Lime Rock while he ran it. He founded and ran one of the most successful racing schools the world has ever seen. Wow, what a life in racing you have had. Skip told me in his future he really just wants to clean his desk off. I think it's probably a pretty good sized pile, don't you? Skip, we are so proud of you. Welcome to New England's Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Come on up here.
Am I close enough to this? Ooh, it's echoing now.
No, you're fine.
Thank you. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about an activity we did at the racing school. I'm hoping this is relevant to those of you who've raced and some of you who are still racing, wow, and to anybody that has a kid who races. After we started the racing school, a few years later, late 70s, we started a race series in New England. And the concept of the race series was, it was all about driving and racing. It wasn't about how much money you had. It wasn't about being a good mechanic. In fact, you couldn't touch your car. We owned all the cars. We tested all the cars before every event. We drew for cars. Nobody could fix or rig anything. And when it's all down to you, a lot of things change. We were really fortunate in that so many good drivers in the world sent their kids. I mean, at one time we had Phil Hill's boy, Dan Gurney's boy, Chris Pook's boy, I can't remember. We had virtually every front runner at Indy and at Daytona's kid or ultimately grandkid. Those guys are Little League dads, not necessarily as nice as Little League dads in baseball, better than some. So when I say we tested all the cars before every event, we also had guest drivers, good drivers. We invited many more good drivers than we got. Stunning number who were a little bit worried about getting beaten by some 17-year-old girl maybe, and didn't come. The best guest driver we ever had was Sam Posey, because when he got beaten, and it absolutely happened and happened more than once, he'd go up to the guy or girl who beat him and congratulate them, instead of throwing their helmet and stalking away. We had that too. When we had the dads, I want to tell you just a couple of quick stories about dads. And this is a little bit of a warning, maybe to at least one person in here. Some of you might have heard of Scotty Brayton, whose ambition was to win at the Speedway. He got killed there. His father was a very good sprint car driver in the Midwest. And his dad would come to about half the races. And Scotty was really good. And when his dad came, he was horrible. I'm serious. Think about that. This kid could drive, and he couldn't drive with his successful father on the premises, or even knowing that he was coming. Dan Gurney's boy raced with us, and Dan Gurney not only was a terrific driver. He was a terrific person, and I liked him very much. But I got awful mad at him one day at Road America. Have you rode at Laguna Seca, where we were racing and his kid was racing with us? This was at an IndyCar race. And Dan came up to me and said, and I had a real reply, came up to me and said, Skip, you've given him a bad car again. And I said, perhaps, but do you realize this is the 16th car he's driven this year of ours? We had 22. He had driven 16, and they were all bad. So I thought we were pretty good. And somehow that proves the cars were all equal. It's the last thing I want to say, and this is the good example. The best Little League racing dad we had ever was Phil Hill. His boy was good, not great. Phil came to all the races. He never said one bad word. Not, gee, my boy needs, X more horsepower, whatever. He was perfect. One step down from that, and then I'll show up, was Brian Herder. You know who he is? He's now a prominent IndyCar owner. His son is Colton Herder. Brian raced with us when he was very young, and he had a real Little League dad who had no racing experience, but still was an expert. And he had a problem every weekend. And finally, we were running on the longest racetrack we ran that year, which was the long course at Watkins Glen. And Brian was on the pole, thank goodness. And his dad came up to me and said, like I was the dealer, you've given him a bad car again. And I said, he's on the pole. And he said, yeah, but just by a couple of tenths. He should be on the pole by 2 seconds. Don't ever pursue that activity. Thank you.